control and other experiments without their informed consent. 500,000 people they admit to, and no one's been put on trial for that. No one's been held accountable for that. I think most Americans find that highly objectionable, that no one's been held accountable for invading the very essence of who they are as human beings.
There's something happening to me. There's something awakening in my mind. I can't control it.
What did you see?
There's a crusade coming.
It's been going on 40 years, continues today, under the guise of increased security. Increased security for what? If you don't have freedom of thought foundationally, what the heck are we securing? Which comes at us today in terms of data, information today, and how it's channeled and how it's controlled. There is so much noise, background noise, telling us how to feel, what to eat, what's going to kill us, what's going to make us well. That just sorting it out has become a huge problem. And again, why the internet's given us everything under the sun in one sense. But at the same time, being able to take that information and put it into some comprehensive, useful form. I think we're all challenged by that more so now than ever, which is why now, with the opportunity to consolidate data, it's even more important than investigation.
Do you often dream things that happen just as you dream them?
Yes. People say, to me, you're a scientist, you're this or you're that. No, where I'm at is I have science background that makes it possible for me to look at complex tissues, distill it down to provide that information in a clear way. To build it, we have to understand enough about it. I have to know how to build it. We have to understand enough about it conceptually. And then we have to drive the political process, which is something that's been missing in the mind effects area, in the idea of manipulating either our health remotely or our mental states remotely. This requires a general understanding of the fact that it can happen, and then following that, a strong public policy that says when it does, what are the consequences? In most of the world's religions, fooling around with people's free will is something God won't even do.
Humans have a strength that cannot be measured. If you're listening to this, you are the resistance. I thought I knew already. Silly as
Fooling around with people's free will is something God won't even do. But our military thinks that's their right, their place to play, and they're spending billions of dollars to get there. I think most of us agree that's fundamentally wrong. And if anything, we ought to have full disclosure so we understand what's going on and have a right to begin. That is a fundamental right. Think about freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of assembly, freedom of the press. What good is that if you don't have freedom of thought? It's manipulating the human mind. And we are engaged in that. Of huge importance from a military perspective, because ultimately, if you can control the human operator, perceptions of a population, you can really bring them to their knees. National leader. What if your national leader in the middle of a radio broadcast to the population, a television, news, media event, all of a sudden started hearing voices in their head? That'd be the end of it. That's the technology possessed by our government today based on U.S. patents that we disclose in the course of our work and based on their own releases of information. But does the general public recognize that? I think more and more people are starting to see it, but it's taken a long time to put that down. On the planet today, whether it is in terms of radio, whether it's in terms of your phone, your cell phone, your internet activity, your Facebook, I don't care what it is, it's electronically handled, it's tracked, it's monitored, and it's not for your benefit. The change in the law needs to say we own the information about each one of us, and that there should be a total transformation. This is not corporate property, this is private property. The digital doorway of today is the physical doorway of yesterday. To guard our privacy in the 21st century, our digital doorway holds more information than will ever be found in anyone's house. And that, in my view, would be ineffective. You always get asked about the countermeasures. What can I do to protect myself, protect my family? In the answer is there's really nothing you can do in terms of mechanically, electromechanically. Most people are under a constant state of stress. If you look around the world, most people are in a constant state of stress. When you are, if you look at any EEG of brain activity, you'll see higher brain patterns, those associated with flight and fight responses, not those associated with higher order thinking or these anomalous human potentials, these extraordinary human potentials that are reported in literature. You only achieve those higher order thinking or these anomalous human potentials, these extraordinary human potentials that are reported in literature. You only achieve those in a state of calm. So just watching the news, just watching a TV commercial bring about how you smell, how your teeth look, all those things that are messages to you every day that create an underlying level of insecurity. That's the most fundamental, easiest form of mind control you could ever initiate. Just keep people in a constant state of stress.
The test is simple. Remove your hand from the box, and you die.
What's in the box?
Pain.
And you'll never reach your higher states of consciousness. You'll never engage your political process on a highly intellectual basis. What you'll see is mobs, riots, those kinds of activities manifested. That's exactly what we're seeing in the United States. Even within this country, we see more violence coming out. Half of the mass shootings have been since, 2007? Ever reported in the United States. Why is that? What have we done to change ourselves so fundamentally, to become so stressed as a population that for a certain segment, this is how it breaks out? The opposite is what's needed. Knowledge and control of our own lives, our own destinies, our individual sovereignty being restored. And this kind of group think, or the idea that government can do better for us, is fundamentally wrong and violates the very foundations of what our nations were formed under. Self-determination starts with total self-understanding, awareness, and then acting on what we believe to be right and true, not being told what's right and what's true, but knowing it, and each one of us know it. When you think about sort of the flip side of this, you're talking about a lot of the military aspects, but on the flip side,
On my mark.
Express elevator to hell.
Going down. 2, 1. March. See a screen?
Swallow.
We're in tight. Back on.
military aspects, but on the flip side, the very same things are being learned. Relaxation, for meditation, for concentration, for a number of areas. But where you're deciding on what the input is, you're deciding on what that is going to be and why you're doing it, and you're learning how to do it yourself. This is the answer. In fact, in places where this has been done, over 80% of children have been taken off of psychoactive drugs. They don't need them. Called the worldwide mind. Very interesting, and what they say will happen in the next 50 or 100 years, and I agree, is the same thing that happened with the internet. And why you're doing it, and you're learning how to do it yourself. This is the answer. In fact, in places where this has been done, over 80% of children have been taken off of psychoactive drugs. They don't need them. Called the worldwide mind. Very interesting, and what they say will happen in the next 50 or 100 years, and I agree, is the same thing that happened with the internet, where we've connected everyone electronically. Imagine that next layer of resolution, which is where this technology goes, connecting us all mentally. Now that becomes a big question in everyone's mind. Is that the world you want to live in, where everyone is transparent to one another through a technology that reveals every thought that you ever had? In my view, part of Judgment Day is when we are transparent and you can look into another person and see everything that's in there. Then the question is, are we forgiving enough as a species to forgive ourselves and forgive each other for all of that? And really that is the next leap. in my view, because it's the next big evolution. The difference is it happens naturally by our own internal mechanisms as opposed to being imposed on us. And then how will that information be used? You've seen what they've done with the internet. If they could literally take your memory set and catalog it across the planet, would they do it? Could we do it? With the supercomputers anticipating the future, quantum computing will allow us that possibility. And will give us enough bodily capacity to actually do something with it. That's the age of where we are technologically in the public right now. Quantum computing changes it all. What would take every person, 6 to 7 billion people on the planet, do the hand calculation every 5 seconds for 60 hours is what today's computer does in 1 second. Now imagine all that computing going on for a trillion years. That's what a supercomputer will do in 1 hour. That will change everything.
Looks like my demons.
In these moments, when you know who is who and what they are made of,
In this future, I don't know that we can win this war.
Judgment Day happens.
So this is how liberty dies. With thunder's applause.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited.
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
An animal caught in a trap will gnaw off its own leg to escape. What will you do?
Complex drives our politics today, and we end up getting in every entanglement around the planet. Well, the majority of people in this country oppose it. Now we have a technology that can literally let us wage war without raising the flag. That's a problem. The temptation to use these technologies is greater than sense from either party. That's a refrain.
Some men
It deals with the opposite
just
side.
can't
It deals with healing of bone fractures at accelerated rates. It deals with the effects of acupuncture on pain mitigation and a lot of other issues that are mysterious from a science perspective today, but are becoming much clearer as our science advances and the more published work in these areas comes forward outside of the military machine. Binaural beam is another method. Binaural beam was developed by Robert Monroe, who was a radio engineer. And what he had happened is he had what's called a binaural beam was developed by Robert Monroe, who was a radio engineer. And what he had happened is he had what's called a spontaneous OBE, out-of-body experience, where he felt like he left
not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
A couple of patents back in I believe they were in the 80s when they were actually issued, but where he created a situation where this external signal, because we only hear, we can't hear below 400 hertz or pulses per second, but these effects to create entrainment need to be in the 1 to 12 hertz range for certain applications for learning, for these experiences that Monroe reported, these senses of out of body and so on. But to get to that, you put in a signal in one ear and say 15,000 hertz, which is where we can all hear, most of us can hear within that range. Put in one at 15,000, 7 hertz. They cancel and leave 15,000 minus 15,000.
Welcome to the Rock.